Hello, this is Rudy Giuliani, and I'm back with Rudy's Common Sense. Today, our episode is going to concern religion, and in particular, the Chinese Communist Party's persecution of religious people, of religions, and their real attempt as communists to exterminate both religion and people who are religious, and how that has manifested itself in less horrible, but very often extremely damaging attacks on religion in the United States, and the diminishment of the role of God in not only government, but the role of God in our lives. Most of us don't know, and that's part of the problem, that for some time, certainly going back well over a year ago, Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party decided that even though they have complete control over religion and assert the right to name bishops in the Catholic Church, which is unheard of, or just arbitrarily close down Protestant and evangelical churches who they decide are detrimental to the state, or even worse with regard to Muslims like the Uyghurs, put them in concentration camps of 2, 3, 4, and 5 million, and murder them in numbers we can't even get the right numbers, to the extent that some of our human rights groups have accused them of genocide. Genocide. And we're dealing with them as if they're what does Biden say? They're just a competitor. Competitors don't destroy entire groups, eliminate entire groups of people, or try to destroy the religion or religions that are the basis of the faith of most of your people. Well, let's get to the rewriting of the Bible, which is their main project, although they are, I believe, doing the Quran as well, but I'm not as familiar with that, but we will get as familiar with that. They're rewriting the Bible, and I have here just two Bibles. I have a number of Bibles, and I have one that's my personal one, but I like to read the Bible, and I've read it occasionally, although this is a long time ago, in Latin and Greek languages when I was studying to be a priest. But these are two different Bibles. One is bigger than the other, but they're quite beautiful. And of course, they have different translations. So you might get the same story. It'll be the same story, but one might be in more modern language, or the other might be in more, for example, the King James Version, which is the most famous, was really written at the time of Shakespeare. So if you read it, it sometimes sounds convoluted, but if you're a Shakespearean, you'll love it. I'm a Catholic, and the Douay-Rheims version of the Bible is the critical Catholic version of the Bible. There are many modern ones now, but it comes out of that translation. And of course, I've read that the most, but personally, I probably love the poetry of the King James Version, because it reminds me of Shakespeare. It all sounds more elevated. But it ultimately is the same story. So there are all these versions of the Bible. Why can't the Chinese have their own version? Well, the Chinese do have their own version. They have a Bible translated into Chinese, translated into Mandarin, translated into many, many of the Chinese dialects, very similar to what I'm showing you here. There may be different, slightly different words with the same meaning. It could be go forth, go forward, ye my brethren, my brothers. It might be my brothers instead of brethren. Things like that. Slight little modifications, sometimes in meaning. Those require great debate. Usually it's just modernization of the language into the vernacular. What the Chinese want to do is rewrite the story. So here's the example. And I don't want to give you one that I don't know. I'm told there are many of these, but this is the one that I know has already been done. You all are familiar, whether you're religious or not, with the story of Jesus and the adulterous woman who was alleged to be an adulteress. In some versions, she's painted more like a prostitute or a loose woman, but the main version is she had been committing adultery. And of course, the penalty in ancient Judaism as well as now in the Muslim religion, I should say ancient Muslim religion, was stoning to death for adultery. So Jesus is walking through Israel, forgotten exactly where, and there's a group about to stone a woman. Jesus goes over to the group, and the group was obviously an opposition or a cynical group, and they said, "Master," in a sarcastic tone, "Master, like you know everything, haha. What would you do about this woman? The law says that if she's betrayed her husband, she absolutely has to be stoned. Would you go against the law and the prophets?" Jesus, who was brilliant in avoiding the questions he didn't want to answer and put it off on something much more important, avoided that completely. At times, he would explain why he was doing something different than the laws and the prophets. This time he didn't. This time he stood in front. He took a stick, big stick, and he drew a line in front of them. They didn't know what he was doing. As often they didn't know what he was doing. He drew a line in front of them, and he stood in front of them, and he held up a stone of his own, and he said, "He who has not sinned, cast the first stone." And he put his stone down. They were about ready to stone her, and the first man drops the stone, and then the second, and the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, however many were there. And they all walk off. We don't know if they were convinced or not, but they were frightened. And they might have been bad people, but they were good enough people to have consciences, weren't they? Because each one of them consulted their conscience and said, "Oh my goodness, I may have done the same thing. Oh my goodness, I thought of doing the same thing. Or oh my goodness, I did far worse." And they went off. And Jesus made a principle eternal, beyond Christianity, beyond Judaism, beyond Muslim. He made a principle, a moral principle for life, which is, don't judge others unless you want to be judged yourself. And then he took the woman, he held her, she thanked him, and he said, "Go and sin no more." Let's take a short break. I accomplished a lot in 2020, exposing the truth, establishing the relationship with you, working tirelessly for America. And I came to know the work and value of the people at American Hartford Gold. You see, you buy gold not only for what you know, but you buy gold for what you don't know. American Hartford Gold is the company you can trust when it comes to buying gold. They sell physical gold and silver delivered right to your door or inside of your IRA. In the precious metals industry, they are the highest rated firm in our country with an A+ from the Better Business Bureau and thousands of satisfied clients. Give them a call and tell them Rudy sent you. And be sure to ask them what I bought. And if you call them right now, they will give you up to $1,500 of free silver on your first order. Folks, these are uncertain times. The one thing you can count on to protect what you have worked so hard for is physical gold and silver. So don't wait. Call them now. Call 833-GOLD-777. That's 833-GOLD-777. Or text Rudy to 65532. Again, that's 833-GOLD-777. Or text Rudy to 65532. Thank you for returning. That's the version I told you. The language is different in here. Language is different in here. The language is different in 100 different Bibles. But that's the story. The new version does the following. It tells it right up to the woman is saved. Jewish people leave. And then Jesus turns around and kills the woman. That just changed in one stroke our entire religion. Our Savior, our Messiah, the Son of God who came to redeem the sins of the world and to teach us love, turn the other cheek, something really unknown in China. And judge, don't judge lest ye be judged, has become a murderer, like they are. This is what's going on in China. It's been going on for a year and a half. What frightens me is, parallel to that for the last 20 years, we've had a massive movement emanating greatly out of the Democrat Party to extinguish religion and extinguish God, and to change the First Amendment into just a one note. No establishment of religion. Forgets it says that government cannot interfere in the free exercise of religion, which maybe was the more important clause. It was the more important clause. It was the reason they came here, not slavery. They came here from England because they were unwilling to be members of the Church of England. They considered the Church of England no different than the Catholic Church, and therefore not much of a reformation from the bad practices of the Catholic Church. They may have been right about that. They may have been wrong about that. They were partially right and partially wrong about it, but it was their belief, and they were being imprisoned and killed for it. So they came to America, as did the Huguenots, who were equally persecuted both in England and France and Germany. And so many of these groups, the Puritans, the Huguenots, these were people who simply wanted to practice the religion the way they saw it, not the way the king demanded it. Whether we like it or not, it's the core of our republic. Whether we like it or not, it's the reason we were founded. More than anything else, it was for these people to be able to exercise their religion the way they wanted to, without dictation from the king or the government. And then a very big element of free speech, and eventually of self-government. China, as a core communist belief, coming from Marx in the 1850s, right through Lenin, who passed on communism to China in the 1920s, there is an equally core belief. No God. No God, because God is the opiate of the people. God is the main mechanism that the rich, the powerful, the bourgeoisie use to enslave the poor and make them not care what they have on earth because they're going to get it all in heaven. What really they're afraid of is God is more important than them. And what communism and socialism really is, and was from the very beginning, is an attempt for a few people to have tremendous power and tremendous money. Communism was never pure, ever. The people designing it designed it so they would be super powerful and super wealthy. It's only in the minds of naive students who are not as smart as they think they are because they don't read history carefully enough. And they are really naive because, having never been on the streets or dealing with people and just in the academy, they have no understanding of human nature. It's pathetic. And that's how communism emerged and quickly turned into dictatorship. Quickly, the people who formed the government got rid of the people they didn't like, took over the government, and became the wealthiest people in that state, nation, or assemblage. Stalin was a multimillionaire. Putin is the richest man in Russia. Xi is the richest man in China. Castro lived the life of a multi-billionaire. Right now, Patrice Cullors with the Black Lives Matter communist movement, already before they're even in power, has become a multi-millionaire. Time to take a short break. Your credit card company found suspicious charges on your card. That's simple identity theft. It's annoying, but they cover it. The type of fraud you really need to worry about is home title theft, a devastating crime that takes you off your home's title and you're not covered by insurance or most identity theft programs. That's why you need Home Title Lock. Here's how easy it is for cyber criminals to get you. The title documents to our homes are kept online. The thief forges your signature on a quitclaim deed stating you just sold your home, and he's the new owner. Then he borrows money using your home's equity and leaves you in debt. You won't know until late payment or eviction notices arrive. The instant Home Title Lock detects someone tampering with your home's title, they help shut it down. Let's get you protected. Go to HometitleLock.com and register your address to see if you're already a victim. And enter Rudy for 30 free days of protection. That's promo code Rudy at HometitleLock.com. Welcome back. That's communism, but they have to get rid of God. They have to get rid of God because you can't have an allegiance above socialism or communism. The minute you have an allegiance to God, those principles God taught you, those rights that God gave you, all of them, inform you that you're being taken advantage of. So we have to be very vigilant about those who try to take away our freedom of religion. And I'm going to inform you now, and we're going to spend a lot of time on this because you know we're starting a freedom network. And that freedom network is to inform us and then to inform everyone else and to try to help, but then to catalog so we have it ready, all the deprivations of rights that Biden and the Democrats are doing to us and others are doing to us. Because we're not going to stand by and watch this country get taken away from us, have our freedom of religion taken away from us, our constitutional rights and our way of life. We're not going to sit there like lemmings to the slaughter. We're going to stand up and we're going to fight back legally and lawfully and with prayer to God. So let's discuss what's going on in China with a man who knows a great deal about it. My good friend and someone very well known to you, Boris Epshteyn. Boris, tell me your view of this movement in China that's been going on for some time now. Mike Pompeo has probably been out there the most, that the Chinese are actually rewriting the Bible and the Quran. And it's going to be the Chinese Bible and the Chinese Quran, not a translation. There are many of those. They're going to rewrite the substance of it. They're going to change the stories to fit socialism and communism.
Mayor, honored to be with you. Thank you so much for having me. This falls right in line with the communist nature of China, right? Karl Marx wrote that religion is opium for the masses. The country I was born in and then we ran away from as Jewish refugees, the rubble of the Soviet Union, we weren't allowed to practice Judaism in the Soviet Union. And, we left 2 years after it fell apart, but the anti-Semitism was overwhelmingly strong. So, what you have, and sadly, it's growing here in the United States, this anti-religious fervor from communists, from socialists, from woke leftists, where it's a fight against God, and that's represented very much in China right now. The Chinese Communist Party are forcing people to sing communist hymns in church. As is, the Chinese Communist Party only recognizes 5 religions: Catholicism, Buddhism, Islam, Protestantism, and Hinduism, I believe. So those are the only 5 that recognize as is. Judaism is not on the list. Other strains of Christianity are not on the list. So even as restrictive as they are, the Chinese, obviously following their communist underpinnings, are making it even more restrictive, are making it even more difficult for people to practice religion. And there's 2 levels of scariness there, right? One, it's terrible what the Chinese are doing to the Uyghurs, what they're doing to the Muslims in China, what they're doing to religious minorities and cracking down on religion, rewriting religion as is. That's scary part 1. Scary part 2 is that we see some of the same things, not thankfully the genocide of the Uyghurs that the Chinese are undertaking, but we're seeing some of the same persecution against religion here in the U.S., as you talked about. And some people misconstrue the Constitution as being freedom from religion, where we're supposed to have, under the founders, freedom of religion in this beautiful country.
Yeah, I mean, the Constitution and the First Amendment does two things, and they have to be complementary with each other. It bans a church state. Separation of church and state was intended to make sure we didn't become an Anglican country. We didn't become a country where everyone had to be part of the Church of England. But then they put in a clause called the Free Exercise Clause. It also protects us in the free exercise of religion, which means the government can't interfere in my exercising my religion unless there's some terrible, odd, strange, inhuman thing we're doing, like maybe the disputes over not giving medical care to young babies or multiple marriage. But if it's basically within the context of 2,000 years of religious observance and practice, even if the government doesn't like it, the government has to allow us to do it. And we saw during the pandemic, that just got thrown aside. There now finally are some very, very strong court cases concerning Cuomo and Newsom in the way in which they blatantly just trash the rights of religions, and they've actually been required to pay money. So maybe we're getting the court to stand up again for the free exercise of religion.
And it's in our very First Amendment, right, Mayor? It's in the key amendment. It's right off the bat in the Bill of Rights.
We'll be back with Boris in just a moment. I've been sleeping on my pillows for some time. I love them. They're simply the very best pillows ever made. But I just found out that they also have a wide assortment of other incredible products like their mattress toppers, sheets, towels, and slippers, and more. Listeners have helped build My Pillow into the incredible company it is today, and Mike Lindell wants to give back to all of you. Pick some pillows or pick several of the other great products, and you can get super discounts on My Pillow products by going to mypillow.com, promo code Rudy, or call 1-800-725-7759, promo code Rudy right now, and see each of the specially priced items, including those in the radio listener special square. You're going to see rotational offers up to 66% off on products like the pillows, mattress topper, and geyser sheets, but also new products like their slippers, weighted blankets, robes, and waffle blankets. All My Pillow products come with a 60-day money-back guarantee. Enter promo code Rudy for these new great specials. That's mypillow.com, promo code Rudy. Thank you for returning, and let's go back to Boris. Yeah, I mean, unlike the false 1619 history, which says that America's main principle is slavery, America's main principle is freedom of religion and freedom of speech. That's why they all came here. None of those people were slave owners. They were poor people. They didn't come here to own slaves. Slavery got introduced by England into the United States, and by the Netherlands, and by Europe, and by Africa. The Americans who came here were poor people that were trying to escape the persecution of the Church of England. And they were here to establish freedom of religion and freedom of speech. And then ultimately it became the freedom to govern yourself. Almost no mention of slavery in all of the committees of correspondence and all the things that led to the Constitution. So freedom of religion is a core right in this country. And in China, this is very, very dangerous. What bothers me is we know so little about it in the United States, and China is so far along in rewriting the Bible and the Quran. I mean, that's unheard of, to take two holy books. Those religions, Jewish, Christian, and Muslim, believe that that's the word of God. America would never think of rewriting a Bible as an American Bible, I hope.
Not yet, man. But would you put it past some of the woke leftists who they're rewriting the definition of gender, right, in this country and across the world. I wouldn't put it past them to rewrite let alone the concept, rewrite the Bible, rewrite the Old Testament.
Sure. Honor thy father and thy mother, or anyone else in that category. Half father, half mother, whatever.
Right. Honor thy birthing parent.
As well as the state. Honor the state who will take you over after 2 years because your birthing parents don't mean much, which is actually another core view of communism. You get the kids away from the parents. The parents are unimportant. Just think of how parents are treated so unimportant in many of our public school systems. That's exactly what China wants, the parent to be negated. I mean, most parents in urban public school systems will tell you we're treated like we're nobody. That's a communist philosophy also. Negate the parents. We got to brainwash them for the state, not the parents.
The state, the Communist Party is the parent, and that was apparent, sadly in the Soviet Union as well. That it's not about the nuclear family; it's about the larger cause. It's about the Communist Party, or about in the Soviet Union it was Lenin, right, and then it was Stalin for a time until they got rid of that. His place upon the mountaintop. In China, it's Mao Zedong. So they built up these cults of personality, and then those become the new icons, right? The new entities to be prayed to. It is very disturbing. And what's really disturbing is that the Chinese Communist Party is not, if they're doing it at home, they're set on doing it around the world, because their tentacles extend all over. They're in Africa, they're in South America, and they've infiltrated way too much of the United States, starting, let's be honest, with the first family, with the Biden family, Beijing Biden. That's not a joke, right? Hunter Biden, the laptop from hell, all the information, work with China's #1 spy. That is serious, and that's real. You've done an unbelievable job in pointing that out, and really God's work in doing so, Mayor. And a huge amount of credit goes to you for calling out China's infiltration of the Democrat Party in the first family.
Well, one of the things that troubles me, Boris, you and I are pretty cognizant of what goes on in the world. We talk about it all the time. We were on television together, alone, whatever, right? This started a year and a half ago at least, and our Secretary of State, who's also a friend of ours, Mike Pompeo, pointed this out in a very good speech.
What's taking place in Western China itself, where they are trying to eliminate those who are not Han Chinese. This is one of the worst human rights violations in recent memory, certainly of this century. We watched today the challenge that Christians and Catholics have to practice their faith inside of China. The Chinese Communist Party is attempting to rewrite the Bible itself, to sinicize the Christian doctrine. That's unacceptable. That will diminish the Chinese people. We want good things for them, just like we want good things for people all across the world. We'll continue to work hard on this because it's the right thing for America to do.
It got no attention. I mean, it's rather extraordinary that any nation would take it upon itself to rewrite the Bible and the Quran, when you consider that for certain Muslims, if you touch the Quran incorrectly, they consider it a sin. Remember that during the war and the imprisonments, there was all this stuff about not treating the Quran with proper respect, physically.
The Quran, right?
Well, to change the words of the Quran, which are, if I recall correctly, the words of the angel Gabriel to Muhammad, delivered on the Temple Mount. Pretty sure that's right. But it definitely as Gabriel dictated the Quran to Muhammad, and Muhammad just wrote it down. And the words of the Bible, although not as directly, both Jews and Christians believe is the word of God. It's not just, a New York Times best-selling author. So to touch these books with regard to changing the meaning of them is basically negating the religion, just wiping out the religion. That should have been a big deal in the United States, Boris. I mean, I think 20 years ago, we'd go crazy. The Catholic Church would go crazy. The Protestant churches would go crazy. The evangelical churches, who very much focus around the Bible, would go out of their minds. And all observant Jews, my goodness, the Talmud is kept in a tabernacle. How important is the word? How important is the word? It brought out in a Catholic high mass, when we read the words of Jesus, like in the tabernacle, it's carried out to the bishop who blesses the person reading it. I mean, the word of God to us is treated with great deference and love. They're going to change it. They're going to say, one thing that I picked up in what has leaked out is they're going to take the story of Jesus saving the woman who was going to be stoned to death. One of the great things to think about in conducting your life, in condemning people. And Jesus gets there, and apparently she either was having adultery or she was a prostitute. I don't remember. And they were going to stone her, and they were about to stone her. And Jesus got in front, and he drew a line, and he said, "He that has not sinned, cast the first stone." And then the first guy dropped a stone, and the second guy, and the third guy, and everybody ran away. It's a great lesson, whether you're a Catholic, a Jew, or a Muslim. It's a great lesson on you're not here to judge. According to their version, Jesus then turns around and stones the girl.
Blasphemy, absolute blasphemy.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what they do to Muhammad? And it's the silence that worries me. We've got to stop that. We've got to stop, you and I and people that believe like us, we've got to start a movement to save freedom. We really do. We got to get everybody together. Even if we just communicate with each other and we exchange information, we got to be ready for 2022 because that'll be the first time we can stop this.
You know, in countries such as Pakistan, which are close to China, but Muslim countries, they're not doing nearly enough to push back on the Chinese. And they should be, right? But Jonathan Swan was just interviewing the head of Pakistan. And he said, well, what are you going to do about this? The prime minister of Pakistan, what are you going to do about this? And the prime minister didn't say anything. He absolutely pivoted away, you know, in terms of the prosecution and persecution of the Uyghurs in China. That's the worry that I have. The Chinese are absolutely going without punishment. There's no repercussion.
Yeah, and look, Pakistan had a lot to say about Hamas and Israel. They didn't mind intervening in that and saying, oh, Hamas was absolutely right and Israel's an oppressor and da-da-da-da-da. I mean, they just congratulated the new president of Iran, who's a 30-year killer, murderer. He's actually under sanction by the United States. Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, hardly right-wing groups, have cited him for war crimes and crimes against humanity going back 30 years. He could be the president of Iran. And Pakistan congratulated him. But they won't protect their own Muslims right across the border because of Chinese infiltration. And nobody in America will talk up because of Chinese. And they're all worried they're going to lose business in China. You won't be able to sell Coca-Cola in China. Oh, my.
They'll attack Israel, but they won't say anything about China, won't say anything about Iran. That is today's woke left. What does that tell you?
Yeah, what does the NBA say about the money that the Palestinians steal from their own people? But they're very, very allied with China. Well, it's your job, ours, and people who think like us to get this word out because nobody else is going to do it. I can't tell you enough, Boris, how much I admire you for your courage, for your sticking to it. We're going to win. And we're going to get this country back to where it was because it's really just a lack of information that has the American people in a state of confusion. When they get this information, things change immediately. And I think the Chinese and the left wing have figured out censorship is their only way to control. They've got to censor the truth.
That's right. And we've got to stay strong. We've got to fight back. And Mayor, you're a champion, a leader. God bless you. God bless the work you're doing. Stay strong. Your leadership means so much to us in this movement. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be with you, sir.
Well, it's always an honor to be with you, and you're always right on point. Thank you. Thank you, Boris.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you, sir.
Well, Boris has outlined that really well. This is the beginning of, I'm sure, what's going to be a number of these exposés of what's happening to freedom of religion. When we establish very shortly the Freedom Network, we'll have a very, very formal way in which to do it. But there's more to be looked into here. But I wanted to bring this to you as soon as I found out about it because I felt very guilty that I found out about it maybe a year after it was first mentioned. But then I realized how these things are suppressed because of the Chinese control of American media, American government, American business. My goodness, it's much, much greater and much more damaging than I ever thought. So give me a little while. We're going to get further into this. And then we're going to make it a big part of our Freedom Network. And we're going to stop it. You and I. Yeah. What can you do about it? I'm asked all the time. What can you do about taking away our freedom of religion, taking away our freedom to defend ourselves, taking away our freedom of speech, setting up censorship, creating a double standard criminal justice system so Democrats get away with the worst crimes and Republicans get convicted for non-crimes. What we can do about it is to point it out, get it beyond the great wall of secrecy, the iron curtain of secrecy, and get it out on podcasts like this and many, many others like this, radio shows, the few networks that still allow you to speak the truth, and get the information to you. Right now, your free exercise of religion is under attack. It's under bitter, vicious, and violent attack in China. And it's been under attack in the United States for over 20 years. And during the pandemic, it got to an unbelievable point, to the point in which the Supreme Court has found 2 governors of our 2 major states to have deliberately and blatantly violated your right of freedom of religion. That's a serious violation when a governor does that. And it's going on right now, and we're not going to stand for it. You're not going to, by joining with me and everyone else. So let's continue to educate, and let's continue to organize, and over the next several weeks, as we go through July 4th, we'll have this put together. Thank you. Thank you for listening in.